Hello everybody, how are we all? Paul79 here, I hope you're safe and well. So, been 3 weeks since we last spoke, and you'll be pleased to hear, well you won't be pleased to hear, I haven't actually done anything on the car still. But again, as always, I have a valid excuse. No, I mean, it's only been 3 weeks, and the weather has been getting better here in the UK. So of course, you know, when the weather starts getting better, I have a lot of gardening jobs to do, you know, or stuff to get the garden ready for the summer. So, you know, in the last 3 weeks, what have I been doing? So I jet washed the whole patio, cleaned all of that. That was a big old job that needed to be done, to get all the garden furniture out, have a clear out, sorted out that bike shed that had just become a big sort of storage place. Went to the local rubbish dump, yep, took a load of things, filled up the old Porsche Cayenne. It was brimming, it was, and dumped a load of stuff, a few box to door cards that, you know, I bought to muck about with, and yeah, just got rid of them. So we had a good old clear out, and one of the good things was it made me get my bottom into gear and sort out the rear silencers that had sort of become a bit faulty. And I don't know whether I spoke about this in the past, but on my white car, that one, I'd had the rear silencers modified by Gert in Belgium, and what he does is he cuts them open and takes out some of the baffles to make the sound on the exhaust a bit louder, a bit meatier, but it doesn't cause any drone, and that was great. And I had it done on that white car probably 2 years ago, and there started to be a little bit of a sort of rattly noise, and we think one of the baffles inside had come loose. Anyway, we talked about this months ago, and he said, just send it back to me, Paul, and I'll repair it for you. So in the interim, what I did is I'd already had the exhaust modified on this car by Gert. So I already had another one to put on. So I'd swapped that over probably, I don't know, 3 months ago. And it's great. It's really, really good, really loud. Well, not too loud, but it means business. Anyway, I plan to do it. The thing is what I also wanted to do is he also modifies the headers, the catalytic converters, and turns them into sports cats, right? So my plan was, if I've got to send an exhaust back to Belgium, I might as well send the cats with them. Anyway, there was no reason why I delayed that. I just didn't get around to it. So anyway, so what I've done in the last 3 weeks is I packaged off the cats from this car and the exhaust that needed a slight repair, sent it off to Gert in Belgium in a big box, come back a week later, and what we have here is a standard Boxster header catalytic converter. I've got 2 of them. You can see here he's cut them open and re-welded them, and it's got some sports cat magic inside there. So the plan is to put these on the white car next week. So then it will have both the silencer modification and the sports cats. Now, I'm just doing it for the noise, but I hope it's not going to be too noisy. And also, in theory, I'm meant to get about 10 horsepower, or 8 to 10. I've sprayed them black, so that gives me another 2 horsepower automatically. But yeah, so I'm going to get my boys at Auto Strauss next Friday to bolt these on, because a job like that, you know, they've obviously got a big ramp, and I need the car regularly, so I'm going to have that done. So that's that sitting there, and what I might do is I might do sort of a separate video on them, sort of before and after. But yeah, so I've been doing all that, so that's good. So all the outside is all nice and clear, everything's organised. So and then also, as you can probably tell by my voice, yes, I've got another bug. I've had it over a week. My beautiful wife had it the week before, and just like really hacking up and stuff like that, and just I need to rest, but you know what I'm like, I can't stay still. Luckily I'd ordered a shipload of Lego, and that's starting to turn up, so I've been doing a bit of Lego, but you know, there's only so much you can do. I think I'm coming to the end now of the cars that I've built in Lego form, because I can't really buy anymore. I've bought my daughter not the Titanic, the Eiffel Tower. My 16-year-old daughter, she was 16 yesterday. Happy birthday, Verity May. She's doing her GCSEs, her exams at the moment, so when she finishes then I'm going to give her the Eiffel Tower. It's 1.5 meters tall, so she's going to love doing that. And I'm tempted to buy the Titanic one, which again is 10,000 pieces. But anyway, I need to start doing stuff on the car. Now, so what I've got is I'm going to get those cats sorted. And once I've swapped the cats over, depending on how loud they sound or whether they're, you know, livable with, I might send the cats that are currently on that white car back to Gert to be done as well. And then if that's done, I will put a whole Gert modified exhaust back onto this one as well, and then we can move forward. So here, you know, I've got like the center pipe for the exhaust. I'm going to paint it all black, make it all look nice, etc, etc. Anyway, excuse me. Oh, still hacking. What I'm going to talk to you about today is last time I went through in great detail. It was an hour-long video, and hats off to anyone who managed to stay awake for at least 10 minutes, let alone the whole hour, about how you fit the rear of the car to the Boxster. Now, there are a couple of other bits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the roof, and I'm also going to talk about what you may want to or don't need to do with the coolant reservoir that resides in the boot of the Boxster. So I'm going to talk about that, and then what I might do is also make another video and talk about the whole the rear boot lid and how that all fits together, yeah, depending on time. But yeah, so there you go. What we're going to do again is also I'm going to put some photos on the computer screen there to sort of talk you through bits and bobs, because it's often easier to see that way. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. So, okay, how long have I talked for? 7 minutes. Not bad, not bad. Okay, see you in a bit. Bye. Right, so where I left you was talking about how you sort of raise and lower the sort of the rear sort of U-shaped part onto this metal plate that is then supported with these big bolts here that can go up and down and be bolted down. You can see where it bolts here on the fiberglass kit to that metal plate. Underneath that metal plate will be holes as well. You may need to make those holes slightly bigger to allow it to get on here. And when you first put it on, you probably think, oh, it won't fit, but it will go, yeah. It won't always go completely flush to the metal plate, but it does. Excuse me. So sort of like all the rear of the car is just bolted in place. There's no actual bonding. The only bonding you do, as I've said before, is it gets bonded along here. And in the last video I talked about how you had to make space by cutting back the Boxster door shut to allow the kit to then come on. So what I thought I'd do is, although I left you with that, and the last point in the last video as I was showing you sort of how you sort of cut the Boxster up and to enable the kit to fit on, I suppose there's a few more things we need to talk about in terms of getting the actual shell in place. I talked about once you sort of put the kit on, you first of all want to do a dry fit, yeah? So obviously that's all bolted at the back there, but here ultimately you want to bond it in place. But initially you want to just screw it in place to get it how you sort of want it, yeah? That's what's called a dry fit, yeah? You don't want to just start gluing it on until you're actually happy with everything, and including the roof. So I'm going to talk about the roof now. So as you can probably see from the last video and all the pictures, this is where the rear quarters end, right? And the actual roof piece is one solid piece. You can see it here, yeah? This is all the black. This is the quarters, which is still in beige. And the idea is basically this locks into place in these sections here. So although you can't see it, on this rear quarter bit here, on this top part of the roof, there'll be a sort of a return that sticks out, probably where my finger is, yeah, but it'll be lower down, and then this black roof piece will fit over that, and you connect the two together with like screws, bolts, bond, etc, etc. So you can see what I've done here. There will be pre-drilled sort of holes there, but don't rush to drill them out straight away. What you want to be able to do is you may need to trim back some of this here in order for it to slot in place and then be flush. You should just sort of work on trying to line up these creases here in the roof like that. Sorry about that, I had to stop. So yeah, you can sort of see how the roof panel then fits in place. It locks into the rear quarters, and what you'll find is when you start stripping your box through the roof, you've obviously got the roof, the convertible roof. You want to take off all the trim that is here. There'll also be a rubber piece of trim that goes around there. You want to just cut that out. It will probably be glued in place. You don't need it, right? And in essence, you take the Boxster top of this windscreen back to the bare metal, in terms of you take everything off. I'm not saying grind it back. And then this fiberglass roof panel, you will see when you put it up, right, it will sort of not slot in place, but it will merge up against the original Boxster metal. So here, you know, where my finger is, there is metal, and then that's fiberglass. And what I've found is I always mount the roof a little bit lower, right? Because then when the body shop comes along, what they can do is they can fiberglass over that and then rub it down to make a seamless sort of join. Now the idea is you glue this on and screw it. What I've done this time, and again there'll be pre-drilled holes which I mucked up when I was initially doing it. I just drew some other ones, but I actually riveted this in place. Yeah, I got some really long rivets, so that rivet has gone through the gap in the or it's gone through sort of two layers. You probably can't see it. You see where my finger is, I'm rubbing it up and down there. That is actually the rivet, and it's come through, bridged that gap, and it's been riveted then into the Boxster metal. So I've got, like, you know, 5 of them along there. Obviously the holes where I mucked up, I've covered from the underside in Kevlar, and then that'll all be filled by the body shop. It's also bonded. They will rub all this excess bond down, probably glass the layer over the top, and it will be good. In terms of, if you actually look at the roof will have a predefined gutter, let's call it a gutter rail, yeah. And in theory, if you're really good, you can make the roof, because you see here you've got the quarter and then the roof, you can continue that gutter rail down there. Now on all three of on all the 2 Porsches that I've done, you can never get that right, so I just don't bother. So what my body shop does is we get it all lining up at the right bits here, you know, here as best as possible. You can see it's not perfect, but the body shop will make that good, and they will just fill that all in and then recut the line so it's a fake line, and there you go, job done, right? Don't waste too much. If I were you, don't waste too much trying to actually make that gutter thing line up, because you never will. It's just not worth it. You can see how the roof, so the roof will have this lip here, which is where your door sill goes up against. In theory, it's meant to marry up with the rear quarter lip. Again, it probably won't be perfect. There'll probably be a gap. I've bridged the gap again by using Kevlar here, and likewise here. You may need to trim back some of this lip that's on the roof to marry up with the metal Boxster part for the door seal. And again, I've just bridged the gap using Kevlar, right? Doesn't matter, that doesn't need to be perfect, that'll all be sprayed the car colour. And of course, when the rubber seal is on, I'll show it on the other side, when the rubber seal is on, that'll all get covered up anyway. If we come round here and show you the same thing from the other side, in this instance, you can see there's the pre-drilled hole. I actually had to trim this part of the roof back for it to fit, yeah. Chances are this bit might have been longer than the other side, this bit might have been longer than the other side. Doesn't really matter, you know, you might have to do that. So I've pre-drilled some 2 new holes. Again, I've riveted them through, so that's basically bonded and riveted together. That just doesn't move. Again, you can see, if you actually look very closely, there's a little trench there. So that's where you can see that the 2 fiberglasses didn't meet. Again, I've just put a couple of layers of Kevlar there just to bridge the gap. And again, when your door seal goes on, it all gets covered up anyway. Talked about in the last video where you've got the boxed metal here where the door seal goes on, and then you have obviously the fiberglass bit here. Again, there'll be a gap. I bridged the gap again with, you guessed it, Kevlar, sprayed it all black, and then you've got one continuous sort of line for the door seal to attach. Again, it doesn't matter the sort of, when this will all be sprayed, the body colour, doesn't matter if it's rough, it'll all be covered up. And in fact, it's probably better if it's rough, because it means then the door seal will grip to it better. So there you go. I mean, I've sort of talked you through how the roof fits in place. The roof is sort of the last thing you do. Well, it's the last thing of the rear. It's completely independent of the front part of the car. The roof, you know, you get these bits in place. I would still not bond these bits in until you've at least tried the roof. Yeah. You can bolt it all together, because again, you bond it here, you bond it here. You don't have to rivet here, you could just screw. I just thought rivets would be more secure and no chance of coming undone. But yeah, you really do want to dry fit this whole area first before you take the plunge and bond those bits, and then the roof. One very important thing before you actually bond anything of the rear is you want to test your rear window fits still. Now, I know my car looks horrendous here because I've got this Kevlar in here trying to strengthen and stop the bend a bit here, but again, you can see when this rear window is in, it will be flush with the top of that, and I've got a big gap here for the window to sit in. But more importantly, from the rear window perspective, is you want to make sure it fits this way. Doesn't matter about this way so much, because the rear window will be bonded to this fiberglass piece and will actually hang probably about this far over. All right, so this is the important part, the width of it. Now it probably won't fly in and just be easy to come in and out. You obviously want a snug fit. You want a snug fit. The body shop may have to, even on mine, I don't think I've got it perfect. And they probably might need to, I mean, when I get them to paint it, they always ask for the window anyway, so they will make it all look good, but they may have to take perhaps some of these edges back ever so slightly for it to fit in. And again, another thing about the roof is, depending on how you fit it, you know, we were talking about how the fact that I've had to trim this bit back to get it in. What that then obviously means is this has now protruded this curve here. Again, I would not try and get that perfect. You never will. You know, you got to remember, this isn't a real car. It's fiberglass. Again, my body shop will make sure that that's good, yeah? Depending on how the window fits, and you've got a big lip here, the window, they might even add an extra bit of filler all along here and round it off. They'll do it. It takes them ages, but they do a good job. So, you know, there are certain things, it's like the main thing is you get the kit on, it's secure, it looks good enough, you know, left to right. You'll never get it perfect. The body shop will improve things, but you've got to remember, if you try and take it too seriously, you'll never get it sort of done. I'm not saying to cut corners or anything like that, but you know, all the donor cars are different. They're all got slight different tolerances. The kits when they come out of the mold are slightly different every time. So yeah, I wouldn't worry. Just don't beat yourself up about it. Yeah, I mean, I was the same on the white one, and that's turned out really well. Well, I think so anyway. So the last thing I want to talk about on today's video is this section here, right? So this is the access panel for your topping up your oil and topping up your coolant. Now, what we have here is so this is a 2007 Boxster 987. It's not a Gen 2, it's still a Gen 1, but I think between sort of 2006 and 2007, Porsche changed the design of this to that, right? Previously, so what I have on my white one out the front, and also on all the 986 Boxsters, is you actually had the reservoir where you top up the coolant was actually a proper little tank that sat in this corner, right? Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is some people, because of the way the kit fits, and you can see now here, is you've got this piece here that joins the two quarter panels together. If you had a the reservoir that was here, and even in this situation here, is actually the access to get to it is actually quite difficult. Now on my grey GT3, what we did is we actually brought the whole unit further forward and actually had it so it was here. Now, nothing wrong with doing that. It's obviously it's more work, but even on my 987 Boxster, where it was here, I didn't bother. Why didn't I bother? Well, it was extra work that I didn't think we needed to actually do. And the other thing is this panel, you'll see it when you get it in your kit, it will have a lot more fiberglass than what I've got here, right? Because what I have done is I've trimmed it back. In the kit, when it comes a lot lower, and then this circle section here, which is designed to allow you to get your hand in here anyway to take the lids off, it had a lip on it, and again it was a lot lower. So the thing is when I built the white one, I thought, do I really need to bring that whole stuff forward? Because once you sort of disturb that, you have to extend pipes, etc, etc, into the engine bay. I mean, obviously I don't even have the option on this Boxster now, but on my white RS, I had the choice of whether to bring the whole thing forward or just leave it where it was. In the end, I've left it where it was, which is about here. In order for me to still be able to access it, what I've done is I've trimmed this back so it is a lot it's less deep. What that also means is this area here, where is effectively the access to the boot, is a slightly bigger gap. And the way round it, and I'm going to show you this on some pictures on the computer in a minute, the way round it for me, to still be able to sort of take the caps off and fill up the things, all I have done is in my toolkit that I keep in the car at all times, I've taken a funnel, just a normal funnel, and I have hose clipped on a piece of tube. And what I do is when the boot's up, because you can imagine the boot's actually going to be in the way and sort of further restrict your access, if I need to fill up the coolant or the oil, top them up, all I do is I can reach in and take the lids off, And then I've got a funnel with a tube, a hose pipe that I put in here. Often it's a two-man job. It's easier if you get someone else to hold the funnel and put the hose in like that and fill it up like that. So you actually pour the oil into the funnel here. So what I'm trying to say is you may see others and build diaries and all this sort of stuff where they bring that whole unit forward just so you can access it easier. I don't think you need to bother, really. It's nice to leave everything as stock. In this case, I'm still going to have a full-size box to boot, and even on the white one, I've still got the full-size box to boot, and all the trim, all those sort of panels can go back as they came out of the factory. I don't think you really need to pull it forward, to be fair. But I'm still going to show you some pictures on the computer now about that. But all I would suggest is, and I quite like it, I trim this back, I make it a bit neater. And of course, as you've seen on other videos, I also build a fake sort of engine cover here anyway to sort of hide this sort of big void anyway. All right? Right, so what we have here is a picture of a 986 Boxster, okay, with the boot all stripped, all the trim taken out, and this is that thing I was talking about, right? So this is where you got the blue cap there. That's where you top up your coolant. And on all 986 Boxsters and the early 987 ones, they had this unit actually sitting in the boot. Now, what you have here is your dipstick as well. Now on the 987 Boxsters, they did away with the dipstick, okay, so you didn't even have that there. They still used the same piece of plastic, and that hole for the dipstick was just filled in. But that is basically what I'm talking about. And because the way the kit works, that black panel that joins the 2/4, that goes across probably about here where I'm drawing using the knitting needle. So what some people do is they like to bring that thing further forward so it sits more about here, so you can easily top up these two. Now, like I was saying before, I don't think it's really necessary anymore because it's a lot of work to extend that out. It eats into your boot space. And as long as you sort of trim back that fiberglass panel so it's slightly higher, you can still have access to them. And if you use my trick with the funnels and the hose pipe, it's very easy to just have your funnel and your hose pipe go into these two reservoirs as required, and you can just leave it all stock. Okay, so I'm just going to go to another picture. So this is basically the same thing, just from a different angle. You can see what's going on here. That's for your coolant, that's to top up your oil, that's your dipstick. Again, that doesn't exist on the 987s. What we have here though, as you can see, so this is of my GT3. Ignore the arrow, that was for some other reason. But you can see now the kit is on. I've still got that plastic, the fiberglass sort of bridging point that goes across the two, and you can see how much sort of further forward or further back, towards the rear of the car the actual boot access goes. Now the boot access was a lot smaller on the GT3 than the RS, but in theory, for the explanation here, this unit that you can't actually see now because the boot lid's in the way used to be here. And you can see that's where the dipstick was, and that was part of that plastic. And I had the dipstick. I still had the dipstick in the same position, right? Further in underneath the rear parcel shelf. But I'd extended, you can see here just at the bottom, these are the coolant pipes. I've extended them, and I had to open up the engine bay here and extend them, take them off, extend them with rubber hoses. And then for the oil, I used plastic pipe here just so I could top up the oil. I had to make sure there was a slope on it, etc, etc. But in essence, you don't need to do that. I really don't think you need to do that. I've got one more photo here. Okay, so this shows how I've brought that whole further thing forward. And I know this again is the GT3, not the RS. But what this shows you here is that piece that bridges the rear quarters together it had this massive extra lip here, and you can see here there's the circle bit to enable you to get your hand in. If you look at what I've done on my, if you compare this to my RS, I've trimmed it all the way up to here. Yeah, so it's a lot higher. It fits slightly different on the GT3 compared to the RS, but basically I have got rid of all of this fiberglass because I found it got in the way. But yeah, that's effectively what I had to do on my GT3. It's not the most prettiest thing, and the thing is because you've had to bring it further back towards the back of the car. You know, you have to remount it, make sure that there is a slope in that pipe, etc, etc. I don't think, in hindsight, if I was to do one again, I wouldn't do that on my GT3. I would do what I've done and just keep it where it was and enable you to still have the full box to boot as it was intended. And I've made that. I'll make this photo a bit bigger actually. There you go. This is just for reference really, in case you sort of get told by other people to do that. I don't think you need to do that, okay? It doesn't look the prettiest. If that was still back in there, you'd still have the full box to boot and everything. All the trim panels would fit back and it would be hunky-dory. Right, before I forget, and I was about to do the outro, but this actual piece that fits between the two, okay, again, it's only a piece of fiberglass, sort of almost like right angled. And what you'll find, I can't quite remember. Okay, yeah, so on the black piece, right, it will have the tongues, a bit like what happens on the rear quarter and the roof. There be sunken tongues that will then, in theory, attach to the rear quarters. So what I have done is I've had to trim it back potentially to make it fit, and I've tried to make this as neat as possible. I mean, you got to remember this is going to be covered by the boot, and when you open up the boot, no one is going to be noticing any sort of like slight things out of alignment. But again, I have just riveted the two pieces together. Okay, so I've got two rivets there, and I think yeah, actually what I've done is I've riveted it there so it's together, so that's fiberglass into fiberglass. What I have here is actually I've put a metal sort of mending plate as well to bridge the gap, because I don't think the tongue reached further in enough for it to be attached there. Okay, so that rivet and that rivet and that rivet have all got a mending plate underneath it. All right, so, and again it is just somewhere, ideally the kit was designed, it's just somewhere for the rear window to ultimately glue to, right, when you fit that right at the end. What I've done, and I'm sure I've shown it on other videos, is these rivets here, they're actually, we've got metal brackets that are going like that. They're underneath this wood. They go like that, and that's where my partial shelf bolts to. At the moment, the partial shelf is not bolted to them. You can see it's moving. But ultimately, when I'm happy with the partial shelf, the brackets that go across here underneath this wood have got loads of holes in them. Yeah, it's metal like this. Like that, with all these holes. What I will do is when I fit it up finally, I will just screw through the metal into the wood to keep this partial shelf in place. Because the way I design my partial shelves, as I'm sure you'll know, is that you don't need to be able to take them out to access the engine. But I'm not going to glue it in place. I will still screw it in place if there's ever going to be a reason that we need to take it out. But that's what's going on there. Okay, right gang, so that probably wasn't as long as the last one. I doubt it was, but yeah, I think I've then, with the video before and then this one, I've probably done to death sort of the main parts of the kit and actually how you fit it on. Sorry it was a bit all over the place. I didn't even bother writing a script today. But you know me, I just sort of like talk and walk around the car, so, and that seems to sort of work for most people. So that's all good. If As always, if you've got any questions, send me a message on Instagram, etc, etc, and you know, we can have a chat about, you know, whether you want to do a car like this. But basically, I think excuse me, I've covered all the basics, all the main bits of actually getting your car to sort of look like a GT3 RS with all the panels. Obviously, as with everything in life, the devil is in the detail, and there are a lot of sort of little extra things that I do on the cars that I don't think we've sort of covered yet, but I haven't done them, so that's good. So I haven't done them yet, so when we start doing them, I'll be filming them. So so that's all good. But yeah, I just really need to get back to it now. I think the next video, and I might even start shooting it in a minute, is talking you through the rear boot lid, because in all of the last two videos I've taken that off because it does get in the way, and I haven't actually finished fitting it up properly. But there are quite a lot of parts in there that when you first sort of get them, you'll be like, oh, where does this go? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through them. But anyway, hope you're all safe and well, take care, and I'll see you soon on the next video. Bye bye.